Pat and I are joined this morning with Bob Kirby, Broker Associate Realtor, RE/MAX First.
Welcome, Bob. Good morning.
How you doing, Pat and Brenda?
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Pat had a great news piece based on the scams that have been going on in the area, and you were saying earlier before we were on the air that these scams are going on across the country, and they specifically involve rental properties. Is that right, Bob?
They sure do, and it's just not localized scams. They're all over the country, and it's just not. This isn't an isolated case that's happening all the time.
So you got involved particularly with a house that you had listed in Greece, correct?
I've had 8 of them that it's happened to me on.
8?
Eight houses.
And so that's just one realtor here in our studio today in the Rochester area. So I'm assuming this has got to be a rampant problem.
It is, and the reason that I'm hearing about it is because they have signs in the yards. The ones without the signs in the yards the realtors aren't even hearing about them.
Oh, wow.
So tell me how it works. How do these people actually scam a potential renter using a house that's for sale?
Well, a lot of times they prey on the needs of the individuals. They usually look for 3 bedrooms and or will rent to people with cats and dogs.
So pets, because it's difficult to get a rental property if you have pets.
Mm-hmm. And they will reduce the rent because the house is empty or they've moved out of the area and they're looking for a fast fix to their mortgage. Or
that's their story.
Yeah, that's their story.
But
correct.
It's not true.
Yeah, that's right. It's not true.
Okay. So when you have, is it specifically homes for sale? Because you were saying there's other properties that are managed maybe from out-of-town companies that are vacant?
I've seen in the city people renting houses that are vacant, saying that either the property manager or the landlord, just before abandonment or a long-term vacancies on rentals, they'll actually put a rental ad in with cheaper rent and actually move the people into the house that they don't own.
Good question. And where are these ads? Where are people finding these ads?
Well, they're going to the free publications because there's no accountability. The Craigslist seems to be the one that's rampant on. Matter of fact, sometimes they have a house listed that's only been on the internet for a few hours and it's already got a for rent ad.
So by free publications, you mean like websites that let you post different advertising for free, not necessarily like a free publication that you'd find in our area that has paid advertisement.
Yeah, there's no accountability. There's no way to know who that individual is that's renting or selling with those websites.
Okay, so
Craigslist maybe.
Craigslist. We were talking about Craigslist. I know.
Can we get sued? Aren't we dodging the elephant in the room, Bob?
Well, the Craigslist is where they are doing it, and sometimes the postings are very, very quick. And I've actually had people bump the locks and show the properties here in Rochester, local scammers, and taking deposits. The neighbors think it's a realtor showing the house. And what they'll actually do is come and unlock the house earlier, wait for the potential tenant to be in the driveway, show up, let them in, show them the house, sit down, write a lease, hand them a key, and take 2 months' rent from them. A month later, they show up and I can't get in because the key doesn't work, and they're calling me for the key that works.
Wow. Times have changed. No, they literally have changed. I mean, I was selling houses back in the 90s, and we never had that stuff to even think about. I mean, there were, obviously there's always scams and whatnot, but not even close to what you're dealing with today with the internet. It's
substantial. It sounds, It's just substantial.
I have, when I tell the story, the one that was on Channel 10, it seems like, it wouldn't, a person wouldn't give the information where they live and their social security number. They posed as missionaries that were out of the country for a couple of years and just want to rent their house until they come back. But there are people that will say they just lost their job at Kodak and are moving out of the area and actually have a mailing address in Florida and actually get their checks sent there. And so it's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. Now, how about now that brief news segment I mentioned with relation to your scam that you encountered? They were looking for $800 a month, but the house might have been worth $1,600 a month rent. Does that send up to the renter, or are they just stupid?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
A lot of times they'll have, some of them are more sophisticated and will have an excuse for that. They'll tell them that they want to take care of, they want me to take the tenant to take care of the landscaping and the lawn. So they make it that one there though is just trying
Okay.
to get more calls and more calls, and they're fishing for more information such as social security numbers and so forth. When you rent a house, you always have to fill out an application saying where do you work, how long you've been there,
Okay.
your telephone numbers, and your social security numbers.
Okay.
You know, speaking of social security numbers, we could talk about this later. It's not very relevant to home improvement, but I found that, you know, with the kids, my children, a lot of times I'll go to a doctor's appointment or a variety of appointments, and they continue to ask for the social security card. And I read years ago, you shouldn't even keep your social security card in your wallet anymore. So I leave it blank. I never fill in the social security card or number, I should say, for my children or the rest of my family, unless if I'm, you know, specifically asked if it's a financial transaction or something along those lines.
Most of the doctors, and I give blood and so forth, or a blood test, and they used to ask for my social security number and demand it, but they don't do that anymore usually. And when somebody would do that, you don't know how secure those safes are, who's cleaning the files are, and who's cleaning the office. I used to just invert the digits so that they never checked anyway.
Oh, okay.
That's a
Oh,
good
that's
tip.
good.
That's a great tip. But yeah, you do have to be careful these days. And so what you're saying is not only are they collecting possibly these people are very sophisticated, obviously, these scammers. They have this down pat. They know what they're doing. They're probably even investigating the listings to see how long they've been on the market. I would guess that's what I would do.
Yeah, they right now they're. I've contacted the police departments, but this is so rampant that they could take everybody off of every case just to follow these scams on Craigslist and eBay that they're saying is just so wild that they can't even cover it, and so it's a.
So what are
trouble.
some things that our listeners can look for if they're trying to protect themselves from being scammed? Like what are, you know, some red flags?
Well, if they tell you you can't see the house, I know this in my real estate career of over 30 years, that when somebody leaves a house in Rochester and goes to Florida or goes out of the country, there's always somebody here with a key.
Yeah.
And they always say that there's nobody to show you the property. There's the neighbor has a key or they have a relative. Nobody leaves their house here, and it doesn't have anybody that's going to check for the sump pump, the furnace working, and so forth.
Oh, that's a good tip.